we've saved you a seat. Welcome to Train Station at 8, a place to gather with friends and talk about music for a while. Particularly, video game music. This is episode 9. Steven, can you confirm that for me?
Well, I can confirm by going to our website.
I think it's actually episode 10.
It might be. This is a great start. This is the Disembodied Voices start.
My hosting style has to be somewhat consistent. Which is not knowing what I'm talking about.
Episode 10 for sure.
10 for sure, and we were counting the one half or not?
I mean, yeah, it was half, and then there was 2, and now this is 10.
Okay, episode 10. Today's episode, we're going to be talking, it's going kind of a sequel to our last episode, which was comparing Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time music. This week, we're going to be comparing Twilight Princess and Wind Waker music, which will be a very different and very interesting conversation in its own right. Joining us for this is fellow Disembodied Voices co-host, Zachary Walton. Hello, Zach.
Wait, I'm a co-host now?
I just promoted you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm here at this train station at 8 thing. It's nice.
Your enthusiasm is palpable.
It's a nice train station at
I know.
At 8, I think is. I don't know what the train station at 7 or 9 look like, but I'm going to assume that 8 looks better than both. Yeah,
pretty different, honestly. I also really appreciate how the train whistles, stop for exactly an hour and then start again. It's really nice for them to work around our schedule.
We have it well timed, though sometimes the time zones get in the way, which is probably why Zachary is not sensing the full 8 o'clockness.
That's right, yeah.
But, since we're talking about sequels to Zelda games, I don't think that we could properly have been more thematically consistent by bringing on our sequel to Cameron, Zachary. We've moved up in life a little bit, and now we can have...
Zachary is Cameron's evolution. He is the war turtle to Cameron's Squirtle.
Ooh, that's not what I would have chosen, but okay.
I don't know, Zach loves that, a patented scowl he has. Kind of war turtle-y, right?
I guess he does sound kind of like war
scowl.
I thought you liked that. I thought you loved the scowl. It's the expression used for one of your avatars. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe that's a smile, and I think it's a scowl.
Maybe it is a scowl, but I guess I am somewhat of a war turtle. Since I don't know. I guess sure. Yeah, let's run.
Deep questions. Deep questions indeed. Yes, but not music-related questions. So we'll leave them for another podcast. So I'm going to kick things off here with the first question. What have you been listening to? This can be anything, not just video game music, but, knowing us, it'll probably be largely video game music. Zachary, go ahead.
Right, yeah. So, I guess I'll just go with the past week, but, usually during work in the afternoons and the evenings, when I'm in the zone writing, I typically try to find something that's, a bit more... a bit light on the lyrics and a bit more heavier on the instrumentals. And so for the past week, I've been listening to both the soundtracks to Ys 4 and Ys 7, which are both fantastic in terms of just letting you, I guess, just get lost in the shredding guitars and drum beats of the soundtracks.
Do you find Ys music changes much from game to game, or does it have a pretty consistent style?
I'd say that now they've definitely gotten into a pretty consistent style. Falcom's sound team is they do have a really good range in terms of styles, but the Ys franchise has generally always been more of the hard rock kind of style of sound, because the game is already definitely more of since that is their since that is their an action RPG franchise. The music does have to be a bit more intense, a bit more pump it up. I guess I don't know exactly how to describe it, but yeah,
right.
So when you're wanting to get lost in something, I find that it does its job well.
I was listening to fellow video game podcast, Marcato Bros, and they were talking about Falcom music, and I was slightly surprised to find out that a lot of the earlier stuff was not that sort of hyper shredding hard rock style that I'm used to. It was a lot more like slow paced and thoughtful, and I guess Final Fantasy-esque, almost kind of a
early Falcom or
sound.
early Ys?
I think it was mostly early Falcom.
Right. Yeah, no, because Ys was actually just one of, like, 4 different franchises that they had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the Ys franchise, I mean, like, the music has always, I mean, like, been, like, more fast-paced, but I mean, Ys was actually, like, one of the lesser games that, I mean, back in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, like, Ys was not a priority for them. I mean, like, they were actually working on, like, other games that were definitely more of what you would, I guess, be more of the traditional, like, in high fantasy, I mean, like, RPG kind of games, the more traditional scores.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I can't even recall any of those games right now, but it was, I pretty much just pair, in my mind, Falcom with Ys. Like, that's the stuff I've listened to, that's stuff I've played, so it was pretty cool going through that history, but...
Right, they did a whole episode on it, right?
Yeah, and as Zachary discovered, I don't know, like a month ago or something, a ton of the Falcom stuff is available on Amazon MP3. So you can just go there and spend all of your money on all the Falcom.
Have you bought any yet?
Me?
I have
either.
I haven't yet.
I have spent like $100.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like something you would do.
Remotely
because
surprised.
The soundtracks are like $16 a piece, but you get tons of tracks for all of them.
Yeah,
it's great.
Cool. So is that what you've been listening to from the music you bought?
I've been listening to that, as well as I've actually gone back to the Mario Galaxy 2 soundtrack for some reason.
Ooh, good choice.
But that's just... It's definitely more of like it definitely is more of like a soothing soundtrack, I guess. And, I mean, it's a nice, it's a nice, like, a contrast to Ys, so.
Yeah, I can see that. They're kind of balancing forces there. Is that for sale anywhere? I don't know.
I mean, the soundtrack was, like, released on, like, a 2 CD set over in Japan, and, well,
right.
I acquired it through less than legal means, but I don't think that they have ever actually, like, put it for sale over here, which is odd.
Oh,
I mean,
Nintendo.
Like, since they have, like, been putting other game soundtracks. I mean, what, like, I think that, like, all the Pokemon, like, soundtracks are now up on, like, iTunes and stuff now, so, I mean, I don't know what's stopping them from putting, like, the Mario and Zelda soundtracks up on, like, other, like, on those services.
We once had an episode about, and one of the questions was, what soundtrack would you like to see made available that isn't, and, like, all of the answers were Nintendo soundtracks. They're inconsistent.
They're slowly changing that, but it's nothing you can depend upon. And sadly, I'm looking this up right now, it doesn't look like the Mario Galaxy 2 soundtrack is really available anywhere. I'm seeing, like, 2 on the VGMDB marketplace, but they're not even linking to Play Asia or anything. It's just...
Right.
If you find one, it's probably going to be, like, $200 or something, which is really disappointing because this looks awesome. You're right, it's a 2-disc soundtrack collection. Oh well. I can't even really distinguish Mario Galaxy 1 from Mario Galaxy 2 soundtrack-wise because the games just blurred together in my mind and I only have the first one soundtrack, so that's sad. That's super sad.
Yeah, I haven't played the second long enough to remember what was different, but
yeah.
I remember it being good. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Exact same thing.
That's the word.
Uh-huh. All right, Steven, what have you been listening to?
I have been
Ys
listening...
music?
No Ys music. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I still need to beat the first, Ys 1 from Ys Chronicles, but...
Zach is beating, like, everyone at this point.
I know. I could totally see, like, getting sort of obsessed
with that?
Yeah, exactly. Just running through game after game. It just has very catchy gameplay. But anyway, I've been listening to Anamanaguchi, actually. Endless Fantasy. I think it's their most recent album. I don't really keep up with those guys for some reason. But it's really good. It's really good. Brian, I think you should listen to that soundtrack.
Okay.
It's
I like Anamanaguchi.
huge. It's huge, and it has the only soundtrack I owned of theirs before was the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And this one has a much more varied style to it. Mm-hmm. There are some songs with lyrics. It's crazy.
What? They can sing? I thought they were all mute.
Well, no. Maybe they hired someone to sing. I don't know. But I thought they were all computers, but apparently I'm wrong.
Mute computers, yep.
But I mean, I don't want to venture into any sacrilegious territory, but I listened to it twice in a row.
Okay.
And
that is not sacrilegious, by the way.
It might be better than the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack.
Okay.
Because I obsessively rate all of my music from a 1 to 5 scale. And let's pull this up. Endless Fantasy.
Have you heard their song from Bit Trip Runner?
No.
Or songs?
No, I haven't.
Blackout Cities are really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard of you from Blackout City, but I don't know that.
That isn't the name of the song. In Bit Trip Runner.
That's Bit Trip Runner is the name of the song?
Bit Trip Runner. No. Blackout City is the name of the song in Bit Trip Runner.
Oh, I thought they had an album.
Maybe it's from that album. I wouldn't know.
We're being super smart right now. But anyway, it's almost solid 4 stars, and there's even a 5-star in there, which is the one time I gave it a 5-star. And I'm very, very particular with what music I give 5 stars. Mm-hmm. But the one song that made it was a very upbeat tune comprised of digitized cat meows.
Is it called Meow?
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe that will convince you to listen to the album. I don't know. So that was like a day of listening.
Huh.
Let's see, what else? Because there are like 22 songs on that album. And I listened to it twice, so that was like 44 Anamanaguchi songs in a row, which is great. And let's see. Today it was really sunny outside, and I needed something nice and positive to listen to, so I put on...
So Sonic R it was?
Oddly, no.
Okay.
That did cross my mind, but it was actually Switchfoot again.
Oh, that's not Sonic R.
Yeah, it's slightly more musically complex and mature than Sonic R.
I was going to say the other thing, but okay.
Well...
It's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, is that sacrilegious again?
Yeah.
Though there was lots of sunshine today, so what was I thinking?
You are no longer a member of the Cult of Sonic, I'm sorry.
Whoa.
I'm sorry, the Cult of Sneakers.
I'm the founder. And
well, you've strayed from the path, my friend.
But that's kind of what I've been listening to. Then It's just been, like, random music. Like, all music shuffle.
Right, yeah, okay. I'm trying to think if I've listened to anything of note.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I listened to something for the first time recently. Carnivortex, which is from Steam Age and some other people. That was really good. Man, I feel there was something else I listened to, and there's no way I'm going to be able to find it somewhere in my iTunes library. Should have done a more thorough search before this. But let's leave it at the fact that I listened to music and be happy with that. Well, that's undoubtedly true.
At least you're contrite.
Yeah, I watched some of the Poets of the Fall concert I have on DVD again.
Oh, cool.
Just step out of my comfort zone a little.
Oh, that's another thing. I listened to Twilight Theater twice in a row.
Well, yeah, that's like a weekly thing for me.
I know.
Stop saying that. Like, how was it?
At some point, you can't just say Poets of the Fall every single time.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't listen to them quite as much as you, but I usually get on like a Poets of the Fall kick, and nothing sounds good but Poets of the Fall for
like that's my life. But
and so, well, it can't always be you. I'm sorry.
Yep. Enjoyed it though, I assume.
Oh, and Zachary, you'll be interested to know that almost all of our behind-the-scenes World of Warcraft DVDs have come in. I've got Mists of Pandaria, Wrath of the Lich King,
Where is
Burning
Cataclysm?
Crusade. Cataclysm is an add-on.
What?
So I need to wait until I buy something that's like more than $20 or whatever.
What does add-on mean?
Like an Amazon add-on item is like, they'll ship it to you, like, free of charge, but you can't buy it unless you buy something more expensive.
Weird.
Yeah.
Also, why did you order Pandaria?
Does it come with our collector's edition?
Yeah.
Oh. Oops.
I thought you knew that. I thought I told you that.
I need to save one to give to a friend.
Okay, Zach, you are getting sent.
But the
your
reason
favorite WoW expansion, we're going to send you behind the scenes of Mr. Pandaria. So you can learn about how they came up with those wonderful Pandaren people. They're going to love it.
Yeah. But the reason I bring this up is because there's a feature on the music. And it was fascinating. So, Zach, you're still invited to the watching party. We're making our way through all the documentary. So, anyway, that's it for me. That's it for you.
Okay. Yeah, that is it for this entire question. We are moving on to the main topic at hand, which was a comparison of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker soundtracks. And I feel we need like a little, interlude melody there.
Oh, I can add in interlude melodies. That's my job as the editor.
Okay, put one in.
Okay, cool. You know what I find interesting about this topic?
I just got locked out of my notes.
I'll stall for you.
Thank you.
You know what I find interesting about this topic?
Nope.
Is that it was sort of an obvious comparison when you look at Ocarina of Time and the direct sequel Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
Two games that essentially ran on the same engine. And one followed the other story. Now, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are almost the opposite in the sense that, yes, they debuted on the same console, unless you're counting Twilight Princess as a Wii game. But they did not directly follow one another, and in fact, they are in many ways direct opposites, and inspired, let us say, flaring opinions from its players in opposite manners. And so I think this is going to be a similarly formatted show, but we're going to be coming at it in a completely different direction.
And here I thought I just run out of ideas. And this is my last chance.
That's the thing.
Hidden depth I didn't even know about.
You would think that this is just a cheap cash-in. We don't know what to make an episode about, so let's just do a sequel of
Angry
what
Birds
we did last
Star
time.
Wars.
Yeah, this is the Angry Birds Star Wars of Train Station today. But no, we know what we're doing. We're like Nintendo.
We'll never sell you our soundtracks. You're never going to be able to buy the Train Station at 8 theme, partially because it is kind of taken from Nintendo. So I don't think we can sell it.
Yeah, it's more going to be... Actually, we should probably put a link to that in case people want to download it for some reason.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's go on to question 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. I should probably do that, seeing as I'm host and all. What is the most striking difference between the two soundtracks for you?
Oh, man. I didn't think about this at all beforehand.
Okay. Zachary.
Zachary.
I am here, and apparently, unlike Steven, I actually was, worrying about this question all day. As soon as I actually got the list of questions from Brian around, a 2 or something, and then I read through them, and question 2 was, that was the one which was just oh man, how am I gonna answer that? So I thought about it for a bit, and I guess, after listening to the majority of both soundtracks this morning, I guess the most striking difference, for me at least, is, I guess, the tone of the soundtracks, whereas in Wind Waker it's definitely more of a whimsical thing, and and Twilight Princess is more of more of your well, at least to me, it's more of a high fantasy kind of generic. I mean, it kind of just sounds brown to me, I guess. In terms of just in terms of just the modern game stylized, like, kind of way, where just games just, like, use a very limited color palette, and, like, that soundtrack to me kind of just sounds like that, just, it sounds like that just in music form, into where, like, it just sounds kind of limited in terms of the palette of the instruments they use and stuff, and
I like that idea.
Sounds smart talking about music, but
no,
that's what we do here.
That is our entire podcast conceit. No, I really like that idea of the musical comparison. What do you know? No, the color comparison, because that kind of strikes it right on the head, where both in the games and I think the music reflects that. The Wind Waker is incredibly colorful, and Twilight Princess is much more beige, much more brown, and that does come through in the music. Wind Waker's is vibrant, Twilight Princess's is much more subdued. That color comparison kind of wraps that up very neatly. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's true.
And for me, go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I was going to say that although I do agree that Twilight Princess can sort of sound a little bit muddy and can also look a little bit muddy. Mm-hmm. There's a certain element of not just high fantasy, but I remember playing through it and being surprised that this doesn't just feel like, how they were pitching it, this sort of epic, dark, big brother of Ocarina of Time. Both its, I guess, visual style and storytelling style and musical style has a bit of fairy tale flair to me. To where it feels, it's not whimsical in the same way that Wind Waker is. It feels a little more, I'm not even quite sure how to put it. Like, it's not a cartoon, it's like a story
grim fairy tale, kind of?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, it's sort of how you have the whole descending Twilight world, yeah, I don't know, it's kinda, I'm not sure how else to put it.
No, that's also a good point, in that it's not just like Oblivion, or it's like, this is medieval fantasy music. It has, Twilight Princess had its own identity from that, to where it kind of drifted in from the art style and the other things to a bit more of a fairy tale vibe. It had a bit more whimsy to its music than was expected, because they were billing it as a very dark, fully orchestrated, like, this is Lord of the Rings of Zelda, and it wasn't that.
I think a good example is, you remember the character who collects insects? And she wears a little, she has that little shop and wears the dress, and
yes.
That had a very, almost music box fairy tale-like, setting to me, and that was not present in Wind Waker at all. Wind Waker was more of a seafaring cartoon.
Yeah, for me, the biggest difference between the two, or the one that was striking to me, was how the instrumentation of both of them. Like, the types of instruments they used. Wind Waker was much more like, light, wind instruments. They liked a lot of flutes and that sort of thing.
Right.
A lot of, almost Banjo-Kazooie-esque, overdone brass and horns that were kind of
some
comical.
xylophones, maybe?
Some xylophones, and, they'd have those. Well, Twilight Princess felt more traditional strings in there,
lots of
guitar,
trumpets and brass, and
guitar from place to place. While Wind Waker used more of like a Spanish guitar or something that felt, I don't quite know the exact location, but it wasn't as traditionally acoustic as Twilight Princess's was. And that difference in instrumentation is kind of what stuck out to me of those two. And I think Twilight Princess, one of the big things about it is that its instrumentation for me hit like an uncanny valley. That Wind Waker's did not. Wind Waker sounded good being MIDI. Wind Waker played to it. Twilight Princess, there's almost every song feels glaringly, held back by the technology and by the instrumentation they use.
Wind Waker, you did not spend your whole experience in Wind Waker wishing that they had just gone the extra mile, delayed it, whatever they needed to do to get a full orchestra in there.
No, it
played to the strengths of whatever software that composer was using. Twilight Princess blatantly set out to be an orchestral score without an orchestra.
Right. Exactly. So that was my biggest difference, and I suppose we can move on to number 3 now.
Okay.
Which is Oh my gosh, my notes are gone again. Good lord. There we go. How do the musical mechanics in the game compare? And what do they say about their respective games? Now, to clarify this a little bit, the mechanics are the Wind Waker and the woof howl you use in Twilight Princess.
Well, I think I have a definite answer for this, but it makes it's a very negative impression on a game that I dearly enjoy. So,
okay,
stick with this.
I'm curious. Okay,
actually, it's a little bit negative on both of them.
Yeah, me too.
Wind Waker's was the actual Wind Waker, the baton that you wave around to change the winds, was super creative and banking off of the past success with Ocarina of Time, but really going out of its way to be its own thing, even at the cost of being fun to play. Just like the ocean itself could be sort of repetitive. I liked the ocean, but nevertheless, it could be kind of repetitive. So was the Wind Waker. Like, you had to do it every time. And they even took that out in the HD remake on the Wii U.
Right. It also kind of lost any sense of melody. I mean, the Wind Waker songs were basically non-existent, especially compared to what you saw in Ocarina of Time.
And the entire soundtrack of Wind Waker has sharply reduced amount of memorable melodies compared to Ocarina of Time, in my mind.
I mean, no Zelda game has really met Ocarina of Time in terms of sheer number of melodies. That is true. I feel like Wind Waker, most of the songs it does try for, does really well on that.
For the most part, I would agree. They just don't live on as classically as Ocarina of Time.
As timelessly?
As time.
Yeah.
In comparison, Twilight Princess felt like it was desperately clinging on to the past.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
It had to have an instrument, but it shouldn't. Its thing was not an instrument. It did not need one. Its gimmick was a wolf, which is actually very enjoyable and very different from anything you've seen in old games. But they're like, nah, if we don't have this, if we don't have an instrument you get to play yourself, if you don't get to learn, like, the Song of Time or something, players are going to be upset. Therefore, we're going to let the wolf howl.
And not only that, but the wolf howl reached an uncanny valley where you could tell it was bending a MIDI note. And it didn't sound very good. Like that.
That was breathtaking. Yeah, it just felt a little bit like that. It was a neat idea, it just did not really pan out.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
Well, actually going into this, it's actually been so long since I've actually played through Twilight Princess. I actually was trying to remember exactly what the wolf howl did. Like, I was like, was there like a point to it? Like, I mean, like, I forget. Like, was there like a point to actually like learning the songs?
I'm trying to remember them as well. Yes, I remember what most of them were. You could summon Epona with it, as a wolf if you wanted to do that. You could also talk to summon those eagles over to you and talk to them, or those hawks. I think what it's primarily used for is you go to those, gossip stones and summon the Swordmaster to teach you new moves.
Okay.
That was the primary purpose.
I think that I did it for that. I don't think I used it for, anything else. I mean, I'm definitely with Steven in terms of they just felt that they just needed to have something in there, and, I played through Princess 4 times now, I actually do remember that, all 4 times, I'm just like, what's the point? This whole, it just felt tacked on. Whereas with the Wind Waker, it definitely, isn't much, it's definitely not much of, an instrument, but I feel that, I do feel that they made it work in terms of, in the few moments where Link actually, got to use it to conduct, somebody in the story, and that is when that thing shined.
That's right. Those were
all their points were just stupid.
Those were the parts where you did it for your companions, right? For the Yeah, I forget their names, but the duck girl and the little plant man,
like Mako and
Medley.
Yes,
there we go.
I love that name. That's a good name.
Yeah, man, that is true. I'd forgotten about those sections. I mean, it's weird because I actually feel like the musical instrument thing shouldn't have become a standard for the Zelda series like it did, because I don't actually love any implementation of it except for Ocarina of Time.
I know, that's kind of interesting.
Like, I didn't like Skyward Swords either. The harp had some cool...
I actually also... I forgot about the harp as well.
Yeah. It was totally in there.
Isn't that very telling of the Zelda series in general? That sometimes they just don't know when to let go of
right. I mean, Ocarina of Time,
mechanics.
it was almost feels cheapened to Ocarina of Time's use of it that they're just doing it over and over again.
Because, like, that game was named after the musical instrument.
Well, Wind Waker was
the
too,
thing.
but yeah.
Well, but I get...
I don't think the Wind Waker should have been, like, The Legend of Zelda: The Great Sea might have been a better name for it, honestly. The Wind Waker.
Well, what about The Legend of Zelda Now Tingle Has an Island?
Yeah, like that would be good. Legend of Zelda Tingle Tuner?
Yeah.
The Tingle Tuner is what you get, and it's the main item of progression. That'd be great.
That's pretty funny.
Anyway, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Twilight Princess in particular, the inclusion of a quote-unquote musical instrument is very telling of how the game was doing.
The musical instrument. Vocal cords. Yep, that's our big idea. Alright then.
I play the wolf. I'm rather proficient.
Now, if Link was like grabbing the wolf and playing it by wrenching its throat.
Just squeeze its neck in the right way.
That might have been interesting, but alright. Or if he conducted a wolf.
Oh, that reminds me of Banjo-Tooie a lot.
I did, yes. That was my inspiration.
Oh,
alright.
okay.
Number 4. How are the overworld themes different? And what do they say about the respective games?
Alright. Like we mentioned, I believe in a past episode, Wind Waker's theme sounds like the rolling sea.
Yep.
Twilight Princess's, to me, sound like the audio form of drawing your sword and running out into a field with both of your arms over your head going, "Adventure time!"
That's not a bad way of putting it.
Yeah,
I was going to say that they were trying to get, like, grand adventure with Twilight Princess. Wind Waker was trying to go for exploration and the open sea, and Twilight Princess is trying to say, now you're a hero, now you're striking out, go save the world, person in green.
Especially the trumpet flare at the beginning and the chorus, I think that it does a very good job of sounding like a majestically galloping horse.
Yeah.
Which is what they brought to the table. And boy, that really was exciting. For the first time, you got to ride a horse in a Zelda game that controlled like something that should be controlled.
Because something that's very different about Twilight Princess's theme, it was almost more Majora's Mask-esque in its overworld theme, in that it was pushing forward to action. Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker felt more exploration-focused and more slow. Especially Ocarina of Time, which almost felt just like pleasant, more than trying to kind of push you forward.
Well, I don't know, because in Twilight Princess, though, if you just stand around and get off your horse, it totally slows down.
There is, but there's still a constant kind of beat behind it. Like there's a the dun 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 is always kind of pushing you forward. Like it's very much. I always felt like there's a constant sense of adventure going on. Like as soon as I found an item, I wanted to run off and find the next one. Like it was keeping you going. Majora's Mask was similarly, in a different way, not relaxing. Majora's Mask was more constantly keeping you tense, but it was similar in that respect. Well, I feel with Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, I feel more relaxed and more open and more free with their field songs. But
Zach, I'm actually not familiar with your opinion concerning the Twilight Princess field song.
Yeah, I mean, like this morning when I actually was listening to it, that was actually the first song I went to. Because, like, that's generally, I guess, like, I guess for me, with Zelda games, those kind of songs are kind of what I consider to be the main theme that that really sets the tone for the game. As a whole, and just listening to it, and I was just like, this is, it sounds good, and I don't not like it, but it just doesn't give me that same sense of adventure that Wind Waker did. It just kind of, it just kind of just felt there. It just kind of felt like more or less just trying to be fan service in a way, to trying to just give fans what they wanted, this big grand Zelda game with all the fantasy tropes, and and that theme just kind of just feels like all the fantasy tropes that fans have been wanting ever since Ocarina of Time, just put into a single song.
And I think that's a criticism that's going to continue being leveled at this game and its music. And I don't think you're entirely wrong, for sure. But that doesn't stop me from being in love with this song in pretty much every facet.
It's a really good song. It just doesn't feel quite as unique to me.
I agree with you on that. It feels like it is a wonderful song that meets the expectations of a fantasy adventure. Most Zelda overworld songs feel like they're setting their own course. Twilight Princess felt like it was fulfilling a course already set for it.
Right. And if you look at it from this angle, let's say Nintendo is creating a new Zelda game world. There's going to be the Great Sea in its world. There's going to be Hyrule, in 3D, and that was Ocarina of Time, etc. I think that this song perfectly embodies the Twilight Princess world. The only thing I might change is to give it a little more of that fairy tale twist. But even then, you don't necessarily need that in the high adventuring theme. So, taken from that angle, it's actually kind of exceptional. It, just like Majora's Mask, captured the weirdness of that adventure. This song captures, like you said, Zachary, that high fantasy adventure that a lot of people did really want. And at first, I actually did not like this song very much. I thought it was just kind of bland, whatever, this is not doing it for me. But the more I played the game and the more I listened to it, it's just a good melody. It's just a really well put together song. And when that chorus comes in, it just reminds me of hours and hours and hours of adventuring, and I just love it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I similarly had to warm up to it, but partially because, I've mentioned this, I believe, on the podcast before, Twilight Princess was the first Zelda game that I, anticipated the release of and played through, kind of marathoned it. Cause Wind Waker was my introduction to Zelda, so, I was kind of learning about Zelda through Wind Waker. Twilight Princess was the one that I was hyped about and just, got completely engrossed in completing. So that's one reason I think a lot of the music hits a note of nostalgia for me that a lot of Zelda fans don't have for Twilight Princess.
Actually, isn't it, considering how we first came to some of these game series that we love so much, for example, Sonic CD was our first Sonic game, Wind Waker was our first Zelda game. I'm surprised we were able to continue along in the series and not be just crushed and disappointed every single time a new game comes out. Because those were pretty much, those were the best. You can't get better than Sonic CD. You can't get better than Wind Waker.
Oh, right. That's a good point.
And yet we continue to follow them and not be sad.
Yeah. I don't know. We're apparently kind of blind, but hey, we're Sonic fans, so we've accepted that a long time ago.
That's a synonym for blind.
All right. Wow. We're getting through these pretty fast, but some of these could be pretty lengthy ones that are left. Question number 5. How is the use of instrumentation different between the two games? And I kind of touched on this because it was my biggest difference, but there's more to say here.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
All right. I think that I'm going to get a little more subtle here.
Okay.
Twilight Princess was not just, brass and cellos and drums and great grand orchestrations. Because it, really, especially in the quieter moments, especially in the villages, it really went for a very rustic sort of sound. You had lots of wooden structures. The villagers were dressed in these very, utilitarian, stitched together garments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the music followed suit. There's a lot of, when you look to, Kakariko Village, it has this very, nostalgic, dusty sort of sound to it. There are a lot of, dirt valleys and old, fence posts.
Yeah, a song that I think
over.
kind of exemplifies this is a track called Kakariko is Saved. And it is not actually the main theme for Kakariko. It is the theme but played in a different instrumentation. I think it plays soon after you rescue it from the Twilight plague or whatever was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays the main theme of Kakariko, but primarily with a flute, this wind instrument with an acoustic guitar backing it. And it sounds very rustic, and it also sounds very original to Twilight Princess. I don't really hear anything like this in any other Zelda games.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's that acoustic guitar. It's that very down-to-earth, simplicity.
I mean, Twilight
that they
Princess
go
was
for.
a way more mellow and subdued soundtrack than I was expecting from the trailers. A lot of its stuff is pretty calm.
Despite its predictability, the entire games ended up surprising me stylistically.
Yeah, and it's a question of if it was in a good way or not, but it had its unique moments.
It's not my favorite Zelda universe, but I really do. I actually wish they had gone further with that. I kind of wish they had gone with more guitar pieces and maybe shied away from some of those fairy tale and some of those high fantasy tropes and, stuck to that dusty horse riding sort of almost Western.
Well, they had that song.
With the, was it the Old Sheikah Village or whatever?
Yeah.
That was a really cool piece. I think if they had, really pushed for that more, it would have given it a more cohesive, memorable style.
Yeah, indeed. What do you think, Zach?
Oh, this is actually the question that I feel that I am, the least qualified to answer because,
Right.
I am, when it comes to, just noticing, the subtle, just differences in music, I am a complete, new, just person to it. I don't know anything.
Right.
But I will say, though, that, although this morning when I was listening, through, I guess, all the main tracks, in Twilight Princess, I did come across how I did how it subverted a lot of my, expectations in regards to the dungeon music, because, up to this point in Zelda games, we've come to kind of, they kind of had a formula when it came to dungeons in terms of their design as well as the music in them. And I feel that Twilight Princess actually did a lot of good things in that regard in terms of, shaking up, our preconceptions of what a dungeon can be, especially with the Goron mines and the Snowhead Manor. And I think both of those tracks to both of those dungeons are also both really good because they're not really much of a musical score as more or less just sounds that one would hear in these places. And it was actually really interesting.
The manor itself is such a weird way of doing a Zelda dungeon altogether. I really appreciated some of the experimentation Twilight Princess took in that regard. I think they did quite a bit more than Skyward Sword did with it. But yeah, I hadn't really realized that about the dungeon music, but it was nice that they experimented a little on what to do there and didn't just go with another Ocarina, the Dongo Tavern type song and so on.
Yeah.
It's so hard to notice dungeon music in Zelda games because by definition they're kind of being created to not.
Yeah. That's very true. I think that there are only a few cases where, if you remember it, it's a good thing. We always bring up the Forest Temple. I think that's a good thing. But there are some tracks in Skyward Sword that I still kind of remember because they were so grating, in those dungeons.
Oh my gosh, yes. Some of that music was just bad. But
and of course another big thing, and this isn't maybe strictly instrumentation, but Twilight Princess had a lot of musical callbacks. You have it was in the Sacred Grove or something, and it was basically playing,
the Lost Woods, yeah.
The Lost Woods.
Song.
You had, I think Hyrule Castle was in there somewhere, Zelda's theme returned.
Yeah, that is a big difference between the two soundtracks, and again, it isn't really instrumentation, but Wind Waker very, very rarely brought back old songs, and it was very specific when it did. Even at points when it would have been really easy just to bring back old songs, it tended to make new ones. And then, it would bring back the house theme. It would bring back getting an item. It would bring back the fairies. True motifs that are just consistent through all of Zelda. But when it came to, I believe, mini-games, when it came to, even where they could have used that old potion shop from, Ocarina and all that, they created something new for that. They, and the times they would bring back something is when you could literally go to a submerged Hyrule Castle. And then it would play the Hyrule Castle
it was
theme.
So powerful.
That was fantastic. I feel like Twilight Princess almost just banked on nostalgia without really earning it, and would just have the wolf sing all sorts of different songs from old Zelda games, and would have Lost Woods come back, and you were going to kind of an analog of it, so that made sense. But it felt like it brought Kakariko Village, kind of felt like, I guess it's a Kakariko Village, and maybe I just don't know enough about the lore subtlety that went into creating Twilight Princess, but it felt like it more liberally brought that stuff back with less of purpose than Wind Waker did.
Well, like you said, Zach, sometimes it feels like Twilight Princess just takes Zelda and turns it into epic mode. You listen to, Death Mountain.
Oh yeah,
and it's the Goron song. But it's the Goron song with pounding drums, bum, 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 bum. It's it loses all of that quirkiness that Ocarina of Time had, because it's epic Gorons now! The Gorons have become epic!
I think they did a wonderful job with Zora's Domain.
I don't remember the source. I remember the source song for that. I don't remember Twilight Princess source, because I don't actually own the original Twilight Princess soundtrack in full. I listen to Twilight Symphony so much, I can't remember
in which case you say, it has the best Zelda music ever! Good gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
It was basically, they stuck really close to the original, but they just, increased the fidelity of it.
Cool.
But they didn't just epicify it. Zach, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I was actually going to, since you were actually, mentioning the callbacks and stuff in terms of music, but Wind Waker, I feel, actually did the callbacks right in a way to the point of where, they would, remix them in a way, kind of subtly. Because this morning, I actually listened to three of my favorite tracks on that game's soundtrack, one being actually, the Fairy Queen song, which is just the fairy, song, but it's remixed to have, a little, wood, it's a wood, it sounds like a stick hitting a, hollow log kind of instrument or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
and playing that
along
along with it, with the Fairy Queen music, as well as, the two sages, when you actually first meet them, the music that plays with them is a callback to their, specific, song from from back, I think it was in, I think it was from back in
Ocarina? What's it?
I think one of them is Ocarina. I think that with the Zora Sage, it was Ocarina, and then for the Kokiri Sage, it was A Link to the Past, and it was
okay.
and then they just and they brought these songs back, but they changed them in a subtle way to where if you're to where if you're know these songs by heart, then so then you will be oh, okay, they're actually calling back to this moment in Zelda history. But if you aren't all but if you're not that familiar with them, they might sound all brand new compositions to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Twilight Princess did tend to hit you over the head with their remixes.
And they didn't tend to be as original to what they were doing. Like the Fairy Queen, I just listened to it now, and it's like, it really changes the instrumentation dramatically to fit that specific character. Twilight Princess kind of feels like it's Zora's Domain again, it's just trying to make it sound more, newer. It felt like they were trying to make it all sound like, look, this is the true evolution of Zelda, but the jump wasn't actually dramatic enough to justify that.
And that's one of the very interesting things to me, where you consider that over half of the 3D console installments of Zelda are basically Ocarina of Time or following that up. Because you have Ocarina of Time, you have the sequel Majora's Mask, you have the, actually more of a sequel, Twilight Princess.
Right.
And then there's Wind Waker and Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm.
That game really dominated for a while.
That is true.
Oh, but while we're still on instrumentation, we need to mention Wind Waker and what a wonderful job it did at giving that sort of Celtic sound as well as a seafaring sound. It like merged those two things. You had, like you said, must have been some sort of Spanish guitar or something for Dragon Roost Island.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had that I don't know whether they're using fiddles or violins or something for the main theme of the game.
They used a mandolin, I believe, in it.
There totally could have been a mandolin. I have no idea.
Actually, a funny story about that. They had borrowed Miyamoto's personal mandolin.
I believe it 100%.
Yep.
That's definitely canon.
That's probably why Wind Waker existed, is Miyamoto started playing a mandolin.
Yeah, I hope so. It really captured okay, here's what I'm trying to say here. It was able to be whimsical, it was able to be free-spirited without sounding zany or cartoony the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It had its own world that it invented, its own culture that sprung up on top of the sunken Hyrule underneath.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool execution of that.
I agree. The instrumentation was one of the most striking parts of Wind Waker soundtrack, and is still what makes it stand out so much from all of Zelda's other works. You don't hear the instruments that are used in Wind Waker anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
I mean, except maybe, Phantom Hourglass, but I'm not going to count games that are directly following the same world.
Oh yeah, that's like saying that you're not going to discredit Ocarina of Time's uniqueness because Majora's Mask used the same sound card or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound
and
chip.
Same song files.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, moving on to question number 6. What is the biggest strength of each soundtrack?
Okay, Zach, you feel this kind to think.
I can definitely at least speak. As for Wind Waker, I feel that its biggest strength is its ability to, bring new things to to Zelda in terms of its scores, whilst also whilst it honors the past in a way that doesn't feel like it's pandering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really reflected in the whole game's story, where first you're confronted with this completely brand new world. Everything is totally unfamiliar, but there's a really deep and, thoughtfully prepared tie-in to old Zelda lore under the waves. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's actually, I figured that I should probably, use this now to point out that, for me, the best track on that whole soundtrack is actually, Farewell Hyrule King. Is this the song that plays as he is, saying, as he's as he dooms the whole nation of Hyrule to be forever under the waves, and this is his goodbye, and they're just playing the Hyrule Castle theme, but it's just all piano, very somber, and like, it's, to me, probably the most, like, just powerful moment and song in Zelda history.
I was going to say that exact same thing. It's the most powerful song, possibly moment as well, that I think I've ever encountered in that series.
Because the Hyrule Castle song had always been an incredibly strong piece of music, but it had been to show the majesty of that kingdom. So playing it as an elegy for the kingdom seemed like a really good twist on it.
Because that song, like, exudes pure strength, and it's grand, and it's tall, and it's never going to fall, right? Nope, just kidding. It actually did fall, and now it's going to be buried under hundreds and hundreds of feet of water that no one's ever going to be able to swim through because they'd probably explode from the pressure unless they had magic light bubbles.
And that was almost exactly the speech, word for word, that the Hyrule King gave.
I'm
very dramatic.
To find my hidden kingdom unless they have magic light bubbles.
And then it also, I think it might go into the dungeon theme from Link to the... No, wait, that might just be more of the castle theme. But yeah, it was fantastic. I am very impressed. I think part of the reason the soundtrack was so great in Wind Waker, and maybe less so in Twilight Princess, is Koji Kondo did not directly work on the music in Twilight Princess. He was a supervisor, but he directly composed Wind Waker.
Yeah, that could be. There was a lot of Koji Kondo music in Twilight Princess.
Yeah,
but
there was.
It was just rearranged.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to say, like, the biggest strength of Wind Waker, I'm kind of tempted to say what Zach said. And it was just that it was a new horizon.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, I think it's hard to point to anything else as Wind Waker's biggest strength, because that is what it set out to do, and that is what it did. It succeeded at it, so it makes sense that will be
I think that really is it. It's this new culture that, like, you don't have Goron and Zora anymore, have the bird people, and all the Kokiri have turned into actual plants, and it's really this new side of Hyrule that was built from the ground up for that game. And the music reflected that.
Yeah, very much so. So, Twilight Princess, what was its largest strength?
I think that Twilight Princess excels at, I think it's that it's able to bring extremely strong, well-crafted melodies. I know its biggest weakness could either be the lack of full orchestration or its lack of innovation. But if I'm going to put it side by side with Wind Waker, it might have a higher amount, that sounds grammatically incorrect. It might have a larger amount of
a more bigger
supply of excellent melodies.
Mm-hmm.
It pulls from the best, and the stuff that it invents is oftentimes, if not exceptional, then very well constructed. It's a strong, huge, massive, gets your blood pumping, fantasy soundtrack, and it does that job very, very well.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely a good reason. What do you think, Zach?
Mine's actually going to be a little different.
Okay.
So, in Zelda games, I typically actually, really like to listen to the dungeon songs. And, compared to past Zelda games, I actually do feel that Twilight Princess, the dungeon songs in that game definitely lended more to, to the player having more of, a sense of place in them. To the point of where the song itself might not have been very good, but at least it sold you on the idea that, Link was in this place.
What do you think the best example of that was from the dungeons?
I would say that probably actually the Snowhead Manor, just because the music is very subdued. It just kind of it's just a very, like, atmospheric song that is just more or less, like, just like, it's actually, like, barely there. It's just more or less just trying to, like, sell you on the idea that you're in this house that has just been abandoned for years on top of this, like, icy cold mountain.
Right. Yeah, and that's really the most important thing for dungeon music to be doing, so...
Yep, that's
rather
true.
than trying to give you a strong melody or whatnot, it needs to be there as a sense of place and atmosphere.
Yeah, which is actually, I think, where, like, Wind Waker kind of, like, kind of faltered in, is just because its dungeon music was, like, definitely more like the past games, into where it was just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
It was even more sparse, though, than I feel. Ocarina of Time had some fairly lush and memorable
had the Forest Temple.
soundscapes.
Right, yeah.
But it's a lot of Wind Waker's was simply a
Yeah.
and that was like the whole thing. But kind of to build off what you said, Zach, and I was pretty much making up my answer as I went, so probably
Same
wasn't
Yeah.
very intelligent, but you kind of got me thinking. And Twilight Princess was iconic in its use of music. I feel like maybe that's what I was getting at. Like, when I remember playing through that adventure, I would love to go to the fishing hole because there was that beautiful song that is forever paired with that, like, lake reflecting the surface and all the flower petals. And then you'd go to the desert and it would remind you of, like, Gerudo Valley, but it would have, like, these vocals that would, like, leap in. They were just super strong and adventurous as you're, like, riding on this boar or whatever. And, like, every single area in that game reminds me of the song in a really strong way that Wind Waker and other Zelda games don't always do. Maybe that's what I was trying to get at.
I'm not sure I've ever found Twilight Princess as one of the more memorable.
Not saying it's the most memorable soundtrack. When I think of all the places you get to explore, the music just complements those feelings of where you are so well. Whether it's the music that changes when you get on and off the horse, or the dusty sounds of Kakariko Village. For some reason, it really complemented that. Go here, go here, go here, go here, and the music is always fitting whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good reason. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think what mine for Twilight Princess would be, and I've been trying to think of it for a while. Like, it's a very well-rounded soundtrack. It does a lot of things pretty well. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think, like, what it does exceptionally. I mean, its greatest single success for me might be the, I feel like the title theme might be the...
Oh.
Like, okay,
well, I mean,
I take that back. It was creating such a memorable, new theme of a character in Midna's theme.
Yeah.
Which is something we haven't even talked about yet.
Without talking about Midna, and that was absolutely up to Zelda standards, and really had a depth of sadness that had never been peaked at before, except maybe with Feral Hyrule King.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think Wind Waker had any character themes like that. Ocarina of Time did very well at it. With Zelda's theme and
there was Grandma's theme.
Alright, I rest my case. Midna's theme was, like, you've always been a very big fan of the Midna character arc, Stephen, and just what they did in that.
I maybe not as much as other people. I know some people are just like, I think Midna is their new religion, but I really liked Midna by the end a whole lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. The theme, it sounds really familiar to me. Like, is it a twist on another Zelda melody?
That do. I mean, it sounds like something you could have played on the Ocarina.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But it's just 3 notes. It's like Soria's theme, and it's like Zelda's theme, and it's like Epona's theme.
Yeah. I think it really fits that, especially that Ocarina of Time music lore.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that was its biggest success, personally. And they have the another theme that played at the piano. It's excellent. Alright then. Moving on to our final question of the topic. What is the biggest weakness of each soundtrack? Start with Wind Waker. Zach, you can go.
Okay, so I guess, which I mean, like, I actually kind of, talked about this a bit in the last bit. But I mean, like, I definitely do feel that the game's like, I mean, like, it's most like, I mean, like, the score's most, I guess, like, the most, like, the most, like, just glaring weakness is usually whenever it comes to the dungeons, or most of, like, the, like, I don't know, I mean, like, just most of, like, the, like, story sequences, I guess, to where, like, it just, I mean, like, the music just kind of just sounds like it's there, and, like, and, I mean, like, and sometimes it's, I mean, like, it sounds like it's actually not even there. Like, I mean, like, sometimes you're just like, I've been in the dungeon for, like, 2 hours. Where's the music at? Oh,
yeah.
right, yeah. I mean, like, that definitely, I think, is, like, I mean, like, I actually like, I mean, like, I actually really like the dungeon music in Zelda games, and Wind Waker dungeon music just never really did anything for me.
I think I kind of agree. There's a lot of songs in that game that just kind of bop along to set the general mood. And like some of the boss themes just aren't that good.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing that I mean, like, I actually was listening to, like, two of the boss themes this morning. The one for Goma and the one for, forget its name, but the plant monster in the Forbidden Woods. Like, Kaledimos. Yeah, that's it. And both of those songs were just like, wow, what were they thinking? This is just so boss music. Like, it just sounds like boss music. Which, at this point, I mean, I don't know, back in 03, maybe, maybe that was enough, but now it just doesn't sound like, what you want from a game when it comes to boss music.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I find Twilight Princess's soundtrack more listenable straight through than Wind Waker's, is because, like you said, Brian, it's very well-rounded. Wind Waker's is not.
No.
Like, I love some of the major islands, like Outset, and Windfall. I love the theme song, my favorite Zelda song ever. The ocean song is brilliant, but beyond that,
I feel like
it's mostly okay.
I feel like Wind Waker, to me, its biggest weakness is it does very well with places. Outset, Windfall, the Great Sea, Dragon Roost. Like, it sets the mood for these, the Forest Haven. Like, all of these places sound really good. But when it comes to story or character themes, there's almost nothing there. There are no motifs that come back that are memorable. The ones they use, they borrow. Like, Ganon's theme may be in there. The Hyrule theme they use really well. But Grandma's theme and Ariel's, is it Ariel in that?
Yeah, I think so.
Ariel's theme, like, these don't stick with you. They don't really mean anything. I don't remember any great theme for the, King of Red Lions. Like, it doesn't master that very well at all.
But what it does master is that awesome bass line for Beetle Shop.
Well, okay, Beetle's theme is pretty good, but again, borrowed. So.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Alright.
So, good. Yes, those are, did we talk about Twilight Princess's weaknesses already? I feel like we've done that the whole episode. We have an orchestration, and it's kind of
We're
tired.
all going to agree it should have been fully orchestrated. I think.
Yeah, and
I definitely will say
and
that should have happened, which they were saying that, like, it was at first, and then they said that, like, maybe a few tracks, and then the whole game just, like, had no tracks that were orchestrated.
Like, maybe the trailers there? Orchestrated?
The trailer music actually was orchestrated, and those were actually put in with the soundtracks. But these songs weren't in the game, though, so why are these...
But they're orchestrated! We
Right.
fulfill our
We
promise!
used up our budget on the trailers.
Oh, those blades. They won't stop bleeding.
That game was so different in the trailers. It was so different.
Oh, that was funny when they first showed the first footage from that.
I was like, wow, this might be a bit dark for Zelda. No, it is just Zelda.
Jeez, remember that flaming monster with the chains wrapped around its arms, and there were these spooky forests with skeletal creatures that would rise up from the
and
mist,
giant
and Link had
spider.
chain mail on.
Yep. It turned out a lot of that stuff was there. It's just, oh, it's Zelda. Yeah, this looks really different. I feel like, I just don't think I was keeping up with, internet outrage at that point, because I'm thinking, it feels like all of those, broken promises people would be so mad about and up in arms, but I think back then I just wasn't paying attention to what people were saying.
No, we just bought the game and just played it all in a week, and that was it.
Yeah, because it seems like that's, the Watch Dogs trailer all over again. They said they were going to do this, and now they're not. Twilight Princess only runs at 580p at 39 frames per second on my game.
I hate 39 frames per second. Lock it at 40 or go home.
Anyway, alright then. That about wraps it up. That was a fun and good conversation. I think we've learned valuable things.
It's interesting how,
Stephen, the conversation is done. Please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll go home. It's interesting how, even though, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker are more similar, I feel, gameplay-wise, compared to Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, they're almost so opposite, it's hard to, draw comparisons between them. It's the only real comparison you can draw is this one did it this way and the other one did it the polar opposite.
Yeah, you're right. With Ocarina and Majora's Mask, we were talking about using the same songs for different things, and there's a lot of crossover in styles, but in this it's nope.
Wouldn't it have been weird if they had used the Wind Waker engine again like they did with Majora's Mask, but then made it Majora's coming again and now the whole ocean is going to boil alive.
Wait, we're talking are we talking Twilight Princess done with the Wind Waker engine or just another Wind Waker?
Well, I mean, what if they had gone the route where they just on the N64, they just took the hardware they had and then made something weird out of it?
That would have been probably better than Twilight Princess?
Probably. Well, I love Twilight Princess, but I bet it would have.
No, that is called Spirit Tracks and didn't go very well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Poor Spirit Tracks. We should do an episode on comparing Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass soundtracks, because I don't know if they're actually...
We are train station at 8.
Yeah,
so
you think we should,
don't invite me for that one, then.
The train theme. I know it really well. Okay. Alright, question number 8, our final question and the wrapping up of the show. What have you been working on?
Zachary, what have you been working on?
Well, I mean, it's not exactly, game music or anything music, related, but it is Zelda, related, kind of.
Okay.
I am working on a new Let's Play series with a friend of mine that is going to cut between, game footage and me as a character playing games to save the future of humanity and video games, through playing old games. And,
should we be concerned?
Well, if the progress that I've made in Zelda 2 over the course of 6 hours last week, and I only made it to beat the first dungeon,
we
yes.
should be very concerned.
Yes.
Alright. That sounds great. Do you have any, ETA for when that stuff will be done, or is it just still
we actually have the footage, and my job right now is to look through it and actually pick out and essentially condense 6 hours of footage into about 15 minutes.
Oh my lord.
And
so is this going to be weekly or just episodic, or
we're going to try to, if we actually can turn this into a job, then yes, we actually would like to get one episode out per week, but at the moment, due to our schedules, with me being unemployed but still working multiple things, and then my and my friend who is the director working 3 jobs right now.
Oh wow.
It's just
Yeah.
I mean, we're basically just doing this when we have, free time.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I really look forward to seeing how that episode turns out. What was that, Steven?
I was just gonna say, good luck with it and stick with it, because I really, really like it when our fellow friends from, Train Station 8 in Wales start making their own projects, because it's so cool to have someone say, well, what have you been working on? Well, I'm making my own video game project. And it's just, I don't know, it makes the world better.
Well, he's also saving...
Unless it ends because he's not saving the universe.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's definitely making the world better by making it exist. So, good on you.
Yeah. Well, as for Brian and I, is that it,
Yes.
Zach? Are you done with your plugs? Okay. As for Brian and I, we're going along with Train Station 8. More Whales or Whales, projects are in the works. Even more bigger ones are being created as we speak. Yep. I'm just super excited about a couple of them. I don't know when we'll be able to talk about them, or even if we will, because maybe they won't happen. But
we have a new publicity strategy called "Never Talk About What We're Doing." We think it'll go.
Well,
great.
I feel like that's largely been my marketing strategy for years. Speaking of which, the other night I had a dream, where I looked at the comments on our most recent episode of Train Station 8, and there were over 300 comments on it, and people were having conversations with each other.
It was great. They're all talking about how you can make $66 an hour just by using
That's not true. That was your dream. My dream was happy. So what I'm getting at here is, if you listeners let us know that you're listening, and I don't know, maybe review us on iTunes or something, or whatever you want, just let us know you're there, send us an email, then you will literally make my dreams come true.
Oh, I didn't expect that really cheesy punchline. That was great. Well done. So
it's been Train Station.
Follow us on Twitter at TrainStation8. Stephen, by the way, you have to do that speech every week now. Shoot us an email. It's trainstation8@gmail.com. Most importantly, we are changing our iTunes feed. For anyone who is currently subscribed to our RSS or iTunes feed or whatever, you'll have to resubscribe. We're getting it all more organized and through our own archiving services, so we should be good to go going forward. I'm going to try to get the old feed removed, but for now, there are two. Look for the one where the author is Whales or Whales and not Train Station 8. The author title will be Whales or Whales. Also, it will have this most recent episode up. The old feed will not, I think. Yeah, it will not.
And also... this will change the RSS feed as well.
Will.
So if you're going through there, you're going to change it. But we're also going to release like a separate audio file on the current feed, so you will know where it's going and what is being changed.
Yeah. So there'll be information there announcing the closing of the feed.
Don't fret your face.
So just make sure you resubscribe to that instead. Also, please leave us any reviews, positive or negative, though of course we love 5-star reviews for publicity and all that, on the iTunes page. We'd love to hear from you. We currently don't have any, so even one review would be absolutely awesome, if anyone wanted to leave it. Beyond that, if you want to follow the stuff we do at Whales or Whales, where you can find more shows like this with people like us, go to whalesorwhales.com or follow us on Twitter at Whales or Whales. Finally, to follow us all personally on Twitter, I am Lord Meldor. Spell it yourself. Steven is Stephen Kelly 180, and Zach is Faison Masher. And that'll be it. Thanks for coming, everyone, and say goodbye to the Monkey Porter.